Did council who said to look over their agenda today, ordinance under final reading, and under item A, I believe there's an update.
Yeah.
All right, Councilwoman Burrs.
Yes, ma'am. So we need to amend, and it's not a fatal amendment, the budget ordinance, and the reason for that is there was a clerical error. The budget itself in the notebook, everybody has full information. I mean, literally, the ordinance itself has left out something. And so Vicki can explain it to you. And I've heard from our legal beagle that it can come in just as it won't hurt the readings at all. It's just a clerical error. So would you like to hear what that is?
Yes, from Vicki,
Yeah,
she can put it
I
on the
think so.
record.
This is just a correction of a clerical error. We became aware of a clerical error in the ordinance relating to the use of reserves for capital when the staff was reconciling the ordinance to the state budget submission. The error is on page 9 of the ordinance on the line listed as estimated increase, decrease in fund balance. It should have reflected a $10 million use. And Councilwoman Burrs is correct. The $10 million has been included in the budget book. Both the hard copy, the one that is on the city's website, has been included in the Socrata data at budget.chattanooga.gov since early May. So this was just a clerical error in the ordinance.
When I was made aware of it, Madam Chair, I went through my notes for the budget, and Vicki did indeed, it was either Vicki or Ryan, did indeed mention that $10 million would come out of reserves for this capital.
Okay.
So it's been covered on record. It literally is a clerical error in the ordinance itself. Every place else is right.
Okay, and city attorney?
Yeah, as long as all of that was included in the public hearing that we had on this matter, then I believe it's just a correction of clerical error at this time.
Correct.
Yes.
All right, any questions from council members? Okay, I don't see anything. Thank you, Vicki. Councilwoman Burrs, anything else?
Vicki, if you would please get to me just real quickly the exact wording for the amendment, I'll make the amendment.
It's not, I don't believe it's a budget amendment. The budget has not changed. It's the same.
No,
Yeah.
the ordinance, when we get ready to vote,
Ordinance.
I need
The
to make a
wording of the
motion.
ordinance has not changed.
There's no amendment. You don't.
It's just in the body, just one line on page 9 of the body of the ordinance.
Okay, so how, Phil, talk to me about that.
Yes, ma'am. The item that they are referencing here is just simply an addition of a number here on your page. This is a number that was already included in all the discussion that you had previously in all the meetings. At this point in time, we've just corrected that one item as a clerical error.
So it's not part of the budget itself, of the ordinance itself?
No, ma'am. This item is just a listing at that point in time of that amount included, correct?
Correct. The heading of the ordinance, as
Right.
will be read, is exactly the same. It's just the correction is one clerical error and one line on the document underlined.
On the document itself? Okay. It'll go through as it is?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Is that it, Councilwoman Burrs?
We'll just go as it is.
So much. Okay, still under ordinances, final reading, under planning. Item E, Councilwoman Burrs, did you want the alternate version read on the planning? Final ordinances item?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that. All right, council, any comments, questions, concerns about ordinances under final reading? All right. Ordinances under first reading, if you will take a look at those. Any comments, questions about that? All right. We have several resolutions here. Any comments or questions regarding those? All right. Economic development resolution. We just discussed the one West Side TIF. And so any comments, any additional comments or questions regarding that at the moment? All right, Councilman Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jermaine?
Yep.
I had asked a question about, in our work session, about the economic impact on our budget. How do I ensure that that will be included in this plan?
So you want it included in the actual economic impact plan?
I do.
Okay, then we will do that.
Okay,
You just told me, so we'll make it happen.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Stay on up, Jermaine. I got one for Council, that's why we started late. So go ahead, Councilwoman Burrs.
Jermaine, as far as tonight is concerned, I have no problem supporting this.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have a question about approval of what's embedded in this, and it's the West Side project part.
Sure.
So will there be further discussion of that? I understand what tonight is.
Yes.
However, I don't want it assumed to be a fait accompli that that's the end of the discussion
Sure.
on the West Side. So
Sure.
that is clear, right?
That is clear, and I think that in between the presentation last week and the education session that we had today, I think it's pretty clear that the council has some concerns about some of the engagement pieces and some of the mechanics of the housing. And so my expectation is to continue to work with Chairwoman Dotley, since this is her district, over the next several weeks to ensure that we get this to a place where the council can be comfortable. And so that, because obviously we want this to be something that the entire city can be proud of.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any other comments or questions regarding the economic impact plan vote tonight? All right, I guess that's it, Jermaine, for now. All right, if you continue to look under your agenda, items on the legal, public works, any comments or questions? We will take a look at your next week proposed agenda items. Any comments or questions? Councilman Ledford.
Madam Chair, I raised some questions last week when we were notified about the contract with the city of Trostnet, forgive my pronunciation if that's incorrect, in Ukraine. We had not yet had the document in front of us, although we had been briefed briefly by phone. I do see that it is already upon us and next week for a vote. Currently, upon review of the contract, I'm up to about 20 questions. And I want to raise that I have several questions, including some statements in the presentation that I think need to be qualified before this is brought to a vote.
All right.
A contract with a foreign city of this nature is something, Phil, we have never embarked on, like in this capacity. Am I accurate?
I've never had a document that was both Ukrainian and English in the same document before here. And this document, as I understood it, at least, was providing for a specific period of time. I did actually determine that it's up to a 5-year term, subject to extensions if the council or the other group is willing to extend. So
That was one of my questions. Like I said, I have about 20 so far upon reviewing it, along with the use of the word shall throughout the entire document, which I understand in legal terms is a command.
yes, sir.
And I just want us to be very careful and understand what we are voting on. So not to, Jermaine, challenge you on 20 questions
Sure.
from the dais today, I will submit this to you in writing.
Fair enough.
And have an opportunity for you to answer. But I think some of these questions are valid based on what I heard in the presentation over the phone and what we talked about last week.
Okay.
And I think we just need to be very careful.
Okay.
And because what I'm seeing here is a lot of financial commitment. And I was told that there were no city funds being used.
Yeah, there's no city funds being
You
used.
say that, but there's a lot of financial commitment on behalf of the city in this. I will send you,
Sure.
if you send me.
That's fine.
Okay.
How about this? When you
Yeah.
send your questions, we will send the responses to the entire council.
I think that would
The
be
entire council.
excellent. Thank you, sir. All right.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And in light of that information, I would like to go ahead and just move this to our July 11th 2-week agenda, I guess, is that That's the case? So that gives time for Councilman Ledford to get some, and the rest of us to get clarity about this resolution.
Madam Chair, if I may, follow up on that. Jermaine,
Yes, sir.
this has come upon us very, very quickly. Is there a rush? Is there something coming behind this that we need to be aware of?
No, sir, we, just that, obviously, when Mayor Kelly was in Denver and had a chance to meet Mayor Bova, and through meetings facilitated by USAID, he just wanted to honor his commitments,
Understand.
in terms of building diplomatic relations with Mayor Bova. But that's it.
So there's no big surprise coming on the heels of this?
No, sir.
Okay,
All right.
very good. Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions regarding, next week's proposed agenda? All right, purchasing questions. We have 9 purchases, 1 renewal, 1 RP, 0 sole source, and 0 emergency purchases. Any comments or questions about those? Okay, if you would take a look at your future considerations, any comments or questions regarding that? All right, I don't see any lights. Okay, we have 2 reports today. We have a departmental report from Parks and Outdoors regarding the POP plan, and we also have Downtown Chattanooga Alliance with their budget presentation. So with that, if there are no other questions, and if there are no objections, I will go ahead and have Steve Brooks with DCA come on up first to go ahead and get his budget presentation done, and then we'll come back to Scott and let him go ahead and do his presentation.
All right, Madam Chair, thank you. City Council, thank you for having us here today. I believe in your council folders, you have a copy of our budget presentation, and I'll just go over some of the highlights. This past year, we changed our budget from the calendar year to the fiscal year to better align with the city of Chattanooga. And we're forecasting at the end of this year a deficit of $88,000 versus our originally budgeted deficit of $162,000. And we can fund this deficit because of the excess cash brought forward from prior years. If you remember, we started late in 2020, so we still have some money from when COVID hit, and we're rolling it over, but we're being fiscally responsible for it and making sure anything we spend that money on, if it's anything that's going to go outside and need to be maintained, that we can continue to maintain it moving forward. Some highlights for the 2024 budget. We have total assessments that would be billed minus the allowance of $25,000 for bad debt and assessment waivers, $705,000 for the block-by-block ambassador contract. That's the largest portion of our contract. We still have a subcontract through block-by-block with Project Return. That's 180 days, 2 people. $25,000 for the continuation and development of implementation of the landscape design, $60,000 for other beautification projects, $27,000 for public relations services, social media design and management, and $21,000 in our continued rent. I don't know if there's any questions with that. If you flip over to the second page, some of the fees, you'll see the audit of $43,000. We had to do 2 audits this year because we changed from a calendar year to a fiscal year, so the state had us do 2 to get in line. So that's why that's high in 2023 and lower in 2024. The strategic plan was the consulting fees and expenses, so that will come out of the 2024 budget. And the special services expenses that you see in there, that's when we rent some equipment to do traffic control in the district for events and for some of our members when they're doing events downtown. So with that, are there any questions?
Yes, there are.
All right.
Councilwoman Hill, Madam Vice Chair here, I'm sorry.
No problem. Actually, it's not as much a question as just a pat on the back. I watched as the Barn Nursery, I think, was installing large planters along the 4th Street entrance to downtown from the interstate. And I just want to applaud you all for that smart solution to, a soft solution to a difficult and potentially very expensive problem. I know that we're looking at that overall corridor, but it made a big difference to see those plants and the way that you've moved some other planters around. So thanks for that clever, beautiful solution to that. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that.
All right. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hey, Steve, quick question for you. Can you talk a little bit about not necessarily the process, but the outcome of the strategic session that was held, kind of redefining or refocusing and aligning priorities within the DCA?
Yeah, so we went through a strategic plan in 2022 and wrapped it up in the beginning of this year. Really, it's, we had overall, and Councilman Ledford was part of the group. It was staying focused on our core goals, values of what the Business Improvement District was set up to do. So to enhance the services downtown, really stay in our lane, but continue to be partners with the other nonprofits and the city services that are provided already. Communicate better with our property owners, businesses, and residents in the district. And we formed committees coming out of it: Public Safety Committee, Communications Committee, and Visitor Experience Committee. So really just focus on that visitor experience downtown and enhancing the services. So it was a very good plan for us to see where we stand and get the feedback from our property owners downtown, and then move forward to make sure that we're meeting those expectations and seeing what they want us to do over the next couple of years.
If I may, Madam Chair. Steve, I think one of the most important things that I found was the maturity in the organization is really, I guess, gaining as it reevaluated through this process. And I think we had a great session in identifying what the priorities really were. And you said staying in your lane, but also making sure that you don't get too broad and you're not effective. And I think that what you're doing is effective. As I spend time downtown as well as East Brainerd area, I think that's really important, and I think I'm glad that was done, and appreciate your leadership in that role and helping the DCA be everything it should be. So thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you so much. Any other comments or questions for Steve? All right, that's it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, we appreciate you. All right, next we will have a departmental report from Scott with Parks and Outdoors.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're going to talk about parks, and it strikes us this might be a bit of a palate cleaner for council, given the long day you've already had. And in deference to those of the cloth, including Pastor Hester, who's up there, I'd like to suggest we're going to Civic Church. And to set the tone for us, we asked, and we're very generous to get Erica Roberts, probably our poet laureate for the city, to offer some words to council and to all of us as we think through the task we're going to do. So I'm going to ask Erica to stand up here and share some of the words with us, and I'm going to pass her poem that she wrote for you around as you go.
Erica, you can go ahead and start.
Parked, pondering, thinking of the past, our history. What? Freedom. Visualizing the trauma that we inherited. Where? The land. Recognizing the healing that must begin. Who? The people. The bird's justice flies high with privilege, but not for all. Relations strained and the community left, slanted, segregated with monumental stains and muted memories. The fumbling of it all, questions asked and answers sometimes incomplete. Tilling the emotional landscape with rusty tools hurts the hands of the doers and delays the doing. In the sun-touched waters, the nutrients can be felt. Gathering the pain and the hurt, a new path must be forged. Addressing while grieving is the evolution of this. Abstract are the views until the trees are finally 3D, dramatically deep while daring to just be seen. Stuttering are the sounds of the leaves chattering back in the wind, a physical manifestation of submission, an organic conversation meant to be heard with all of the senses. And so what are the top tree branches saying as they gloriously salute the changing seasons? No dreams delayed under its shade. Bravely blending the watercolors of life to bring it all forth, the vision and the values. Seeds of engagement placed in the mental soil with the intention to nourish valued views, clarifying the needs, pulling up of the weeds of what isn't supplying, creating peace for all to flourish, picking a time to enjoy. Love grows here because it was sown intentionally in full bloom, stitching together our sacred spaces through the power of pure breath-giving pleasure. Amplifying the gifts of our gardens, we find healing here, anchoring our sanity and the respite from it all. We will create our journeys, building together. We will connect our past, strengthen our community bonds. We will fulfill our vision, seeing our future together, knowing that this space is ours and that it is safe. So let's reignite the invitation because we want you here. Let's water the welcome and watch the bounty come in. Planted, fed, harvested, parked. In this particular poem, there is a hidden piece. If you flip to the back page, letters of park. P, picking a time to enjoy. A, anchoring our sanity. R, respite from it all. K, knowing that this S, space is ours and that it is safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Erica. Great as always.
And this plan is the result of that soulfulness, I hope, and the result of a lot of hard work from folks that are here, from Akoshwa to Blythe, to Brian, to Greta, to Jason, to Noel. There's been a lot of folks working on this with y'all. So let's dig into it, because it is about building this unique thing we call Chattanooga. Why the plan? First, our outdoors and our parks distinguish us at our best. Second, we're going to fix and build parks and trails across the entire city. This is about taking a vision and pushing it out a little further, y'all. And finally, and probably more tactically that you're interested in, this regains our footing and our eligibility for many, many grant programs and support that we've been ineligible to receive. Solving problems, pushing forward. And we have to do it because we're growing. We're here, y'all. We're going here. The last plan was written here. We got some work to do, but it's okay because we draw on a history. You've seen this in our meetings and our discussions. This is the original Nolan plan for Chattanooga, drawn up in 1911, back in the day when getting a park plan for a city was the same thing as getting an NFL franchise for your city today. In Chattanooga, we may do things a little different. We don't think you need the Titans to be a great place. We think you just need Titans of public places. So what we propose to do is take that plan and push it forward a little bit. Adrian? Everyone needs help. Adrian's help. Where the Nolan plan was originally done just for our core city, and it was done beautifully, y'all, we have the opportunity and responsibility to push forward and take it out for today's Chattanooga. And that's what we're going to talk about today and run y'all through. We first start with what we are, because as James Baldwin said, you can't know where you are until you address what you is. We did a first asset and inventory of our park conditions, and I think we all know that we have some beautiful parks, and the city should rightfully take great pride in it because it did it. Many, many cities attempted to do it, Chattanooga did. We also have to recognize that we are a city that lives in two different universes. This quote was shared by Mitchell Silver, the former Parks Commissioner in New York City when he was here with us. This was the direction he gave me very directly, which was don't forget your whole city because this is what some of our parks look like as well. You're looking at a photo of Boulevard Park. Now, I'll argue to you until my last breath, the neighborhood around this park relies on that green space more so than sometimes the folks that rely on Coolidge because they don't have the money, the time, or the income to get to the Smokies for a weekend. That green space has an enormous responsibility to perform at a higher level. And when you take all of our facilities together and we look at them as a whole, our outside consultants gave us a C+. I don't know about y'all, but I think that's where my parents would tell me I wasn't quite living up to expectations. And we can do a little bit better there because we want to take ourselves from the left to the right and move ourselves to at least a B+. This is fixable, doable stuff. We are really optimistic that we can get there. And just to go ahead and level set some expectations, these are per capita spending rates for some of our peer cities for what they spend in their public places. You can see Chattanooga right there. This is just one lens. There's an efficiency argument because we should double down on the volunteer spirit that makes up our community, makes us a little unique. Our numbers should be lower because we can empower citizens and partnerships to do great things. But you see there that we lag our folks. The next thing we had to do is look at where our city is served by parks. Those blue areas recognize areas that are fast growing in our community without a lot of public park space. And if we think forward to what 300,000 people in Chattanooga looks like, this is the edge of our universe right now and thinking about how our city lies. Now that center core has a lot of repair, healing to do as well. But when we push out about thinking about what decisions can this council make today that'll be beneficial in 50 years, the edges is where we're going to find ourselves able to make some difference. And how does that translate itself? Well, this slide tells you 65% of our community does not have a park close to their house. The original Nolan plan, we were a much different ratio. It's fixable, and it matters though. And I want to spend just 1 second about why it matters to have a park close to home. Everyone wants this experience, right? Well, if we don't build parks close to where people live, your park director is going to end up showing here, asking you for money to build this. And I don't think I got appointed to this job to pave parking lots. The second thing, and I hope this isn't nostalgia speaking, but you know, I kind of think the sandlot matters. And I don't know if it was ever a real universe many people experienced, but the idea of kids running down with their friends to play in a park is still something we think is a daggone special thing. It makes these neighborhoods where folks know each other. They support one another. This is what brings crime down. This is what brings health up, are the tight binds that we can build in our communities. So that's why you see us talking about neighborhood parks for the first time in over 100 years in this community with this sort of forcefulness. Where we are today is pretty short. We've got some improvements despite all the reputation we have. And I love working for this council and this administration because not a single one of y'all has ever told me to hold back on the truth about what we are versus what we advertise. And what we promote is Outside Magazine, and that's great and that's wonderful, but I'm gonna tell y'all what we deliver is a little short of that. We're at 8 acres per 1,000 residents. The average city our size is about 10 acres per city resident. We've got about 443 acres to make up. Fixable and doable, and we got some solutions for you. I'm not gonna bring you a problem without a solution, but I don't have a great solution for you other than hard work to get to that bottom number. Projecting success in Chattanooga, and as we continue to grow, we're going to be about 1,200 acres short in 2050 if we don't do anything. This is one of those scary retirement slides that you sit down and look about retirement savings, but this is how we need to shape and build our city. And then we have amenities and facilities that go in this, and we've taken a hard look at those. And you can see here, I won't waste your time on too many of them, but we're short some of them. And some of them you're going to hear a lot of press about shortly, I would imagine, including multi-use field complexes. But we got some gaps here, and those park acreages I speak to are what host these facilities and these amenities. It's all one system, all fixable, but we've got some gaps that we need to fill. The next thing we did is after we nerded out doing that, we sat down and we listened to the community, and we listened, and I hope you think we listened well, and I hope you think we listened thoughtfully. We had nearly 20,000 people engage the park planning process over the last 2 years. And this planning process spanned 2 administrations. And we had nearly over 2,000 people actually engage with us in small groups, in neighborhood meetings, and surveys. So we heard and heard and heard. And here's what folks told us. They've told us that 62% of folks in this community use parks multiple times per month. That's great. Not so great. 72% can only reach them by car. And then only 24% of them said they can use a park without a barrier. Either you have to drive, or there's a sidewalk you have to get through, or there's a language barrier, there's a sign barrier. So they love their parks and want to use them more. But we've got to remove some barriers to get them fixed. The next thing is we asked Blue Sky, what do you think we need? I show the slide to our team and folks around the community, and it's a unique perspective. Y'all, what people want here in Chattanooga reads a lot different than what would read in Orlando, Florida, or Phoenix. We have unique sensitivity for place, ecology, trees, healing benefits of the outdoors. So we've listened to what they want. And one of the things I want to call out that jumped way up was 88% of them said it was vital. These parks are vital to protect our natural resources. That's a big number. And our wildness is what drives our personality as a city. Those are all photos from Chattanooga. Now, I'll totally nerd out on you. This, because I can, and I have a microphone, this is an actual Doppler radar photo image of the bird migration on May the 7th of 2023. That number in the upper corner, 7.8 million, is the number of birds that crossed over Chattanooga between midnight and 4 a.m.
Wow.
Our habitats matter. The landscape matters. So the residents then gave us feedback that our planning team then crafted into these core values, because values have to mean something, they have to be measurable and transferable. And I want to give Akosha and Blythe a ton of credit for shaping these into words that we can deploy as part of your park team. Number one, our primary value, these are all primary values, are access. Everyone has the ability to access. Number two is equity. We acknowledge and lean into the hurt. We lean into the neighborhoods that have been disadvantaged for far too long for public green space. And I don't just mean having a park. I mean having a park that is safe, clean, fun, and beautiful. So we don't have the Boulevard Park example again, or shiny parks on one end and not so shiny on the other. We lean into nature in a very unique way that's unique to Chattanooga, where every kid that grows up here, crazy idea, can identify the oak trees and the birds that live in their community. It's great they understand the rainforest. I'm not going to take that away, but wouldn't it be more special to understand what a catalpa tree looks like here, and what a spotted salamander is, and what a paddlefish is? That's Chattanooga. Place. We don't have to be Boulder, Colorado. And we shouldn't be. We should be Chattanooga. Nanner, nanner, nanner. And then quality. Anything you do has to have quality. If you're not going to maintain it, no one's going to use it. And we put all those things together and we've created the plan that's recommendations I'm going to briefly scan through. But it's public input, it's projections on where we're growing, it's understanding your current system, and then understanding your recreational demands and your programmatic interest. And these are the core values we came out of to lift out of these. And we heard you loud and clear. Number one, fix what you have before bringing us something new. We hear that. In the plan, you'll see calls out repair of our existing system, and healing is another word. Number two is build new. It's a yes and, y'all. We got to get out to those edges that are growing faster. Those options of land are going to go away. I'm not making eye contact with Councilmember Lifford, who reminds me, I believe every 5 minutes he has one park in his district. So I'm just not going to look at him right now, but it is a true statement. Number three is connect. Everyone we met with said they want to connect to each other. Trails, blue ways. They want to move in our community in different ways than their automobile, and that's a unique place that we can solve some of those problems. We did a focus group with developers, fascinating meeting, because they said, even our large events, we'll help you figure out the park space. In fact, you heard it with the Bend. We'll help you figure out the park space there. Help figure out the way we can connect our development to other developments through the process, for pedestrians, for wildlife, for all different critters. And that's a unique space and a unique voice in Chattanooga. And then finally, preserve. Preserve our wildlife, our culture, our heritage, our history in a way that thoughtfully passes us on to the next generation, much in the way we inherited them. Just do it a step better and maybe leave it in a little better shape than we found it. Solutions are forward in the plan are contained as such. Double down on the park volunteer stewardship program. We're the volunteer state. We can do a better job and more thoughtful job of anticipating their interest in moving into it. Adding corporations, adding nonprofits and bodies of faith to that partnership team. Create private-public opportunities to supplement maintenance and upkeep. You heard that in the Bend. We already do that with the downtown development folks. We already do it with River City to keep our riverfront parks good. We do it with the county brilliantly, and I want to give them a huge pat on the back. I have never had a more collaborative relationship with the county in my 25 years of doing this work. It is seamless. They talk to us, we talk to them. It's invisible, and no one ever talks about the credit we get. Right now, we're helping them build a dog park and a disc golf course at Enterprise. They're helping build a playground and a dog park at Ben Miller. And you wouldn't know the difference, and the citizen doesn't care, and that's the beauty of us working together. So we want to keep building those up. We want to adopt maintenance impact statements. Believe it or not, you've never been brought a maintenance impact statement. Y'all, last year we opened the South Chickamauga Trail. Yay, right? I didn't get the single first maintenance person to maintain that. Now, you wouldn't budget your house that way when you add a room, so we can do that with y'all better. We need to add staff, and this will happen during the annual budget process like everything, but about 6 to 10 park care professionals will help us elevate from a C+ to a B+. This is a lever we can press. That includes natural areas, trail rangers, gardeners and arborists, and then skilled trades expertise, mechanics, carpentry, plumbing, playground. You're maintaining your living room in the house. We maintain a park system, so having those skilled trades will make a difference in our system as well. And solutions to increase resident engagement, because we heard that. We want more ways to connect. The POP recommends that you appoint and establish a Parks and Outdoor Advisory Commission to provide you with advice on what you should be investing, where you should be spending money to increase citizen engagement. And I want to say this as well, and this one I'll go back. This is a firewall, and I want to acknowledge that from the administration, that this Parks Department cannot be broken apart again. This is a firewall to defend some of our most special and valued public places, so they're always front and center. Past changes in elections and trends and everything else, you get to greatness by sticking with it decade after decade after decade. We want to embrace the National Park City Initiative. That's about the spirit of collaboration. Think of it as a Michelin star for our city if we get it. It says you're really, really special, with Nat Geo's already told us we are. But allows a way for us to brand ourselves and to unify all of the partners and nonprofit folks who are already doing great work into one program and bring those together. And create a donor and nonprofit support program for neighborhood associations, philanthropies. We know the role of philanthropy here. We want to create an organized and focused process, not a whack-a-mole episode for y'all. And we believe those steps forward will help us improve citizen engagement. And then you get to the projects and you get to the work, because it is work on the ground. We've broken it into 3 phases of work. You're not going to solve these problems in one chunk, so let's not do it. You need to get wins. You need to have things in a scalable process that you can wrap your heads around and that citizens can wrap their heads around, so we can make measurable progress. So we have them in tranches. If you ask me, how long will it take? It's not a length question, it's a resource question. We hit the gas pedal, or one of us wins the mega bucks next week, we can move very quickly. If we don't fund things, it'll move very slowly. But that's a choice we'll make through the annual budget process that you control and you direct. This is the first phase of projects, 16 miles of new greenways, and these would be greenways in our suburban edge as well as our urban core. 7 new neighborhood parks to get to those areas that are underserved. Park reinvestments, 19 major park upgrades or redevelopment projects, which are already underway. Some of them are. You may fund in the budget that you adopt tonight the redo of the skate park, of Province Park. We're going to make progress, but we're going to keep building on it. And then special use facilities, such as possibly a multi-use complex. The big gaps we're missing to move ourselves forward. And then low-hanging fruit, and this is an apple that we found on the ground that you can shine up. We have these things called rivers that go through us. I don't know if y'all have seen them. You can turn those into trails, they're called blueways, with rational access points where you enter and leave and depart from. Low-hanging fruit, no one else has got it. All due respect to our friends in Nashville. That's one of our greatest assets. And then we want to talk about urban ecology. We have identified over 500 acres that the city presently owns through the asset inventory process that would make great sense for urban ecology preserves and bring wilderness and bring nature to all of our neighborhoods. That's just deploying an asset we already have. That's finding the apple on the ground and polishing up and asking it to do it. And you can see how they're spread across the city as well. The next 2 tranches are further out, and they're past your council's probably role, but I want to lay them, the first tranche would do this, because I always want to go to the measurements. Number 1, it'll take us from 32% of our residents having close to home parks to 55%. That brings us to the national average. If you say it can't be done, Dallas, Texas just did it in 2.5, and they're growing at about double our rate, so it can be done. We bring park conditions up to that B+. I don't think that's too much to ask. Can't get to an A, but we can certainly get to a B+. And create that urban ecology system we talked to you about 500 acres. And that will get a little bit of attention around the nation, because I believe that'll be the largest urban conservation system built in the United States in about the last decade or 2. And people may not expect that in little old Chattanooga, Tennessee, but we got something to show them. The next 2 phases are a tick longer range, but I just want to scan through them briefly to tell you we keep building on things, but you'll start to see a twist. You'll see us pushing out, because you took care of home base. You fixed what was needed to be fixed, but you start moving outwards with greenway corridors and neighborhood parks. And then finally, the largest one and longest range out would be specialty facilities such as whitewater parks, new greenways for a much denser future that will happen. So they start to build on each other. But if you add those last 2 together cumulatively, that will take us from 55% of our community with a close to home park to 90%. It would allow us to have park quality that hits an A. And then the big one, I think, for all of us is no more deferred maintenance. That term is buried in the past. So you're on a routine, predictable pattern of maintaining what you've got, because you've done these maintenance impact statements and budgeted pay-go as you go. So this map and this little rendering you'll see, it kind of moves you through visually what that means to grow the system as you see it move from today to phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And what we're doing is advancing walkability, livability, and close-to-home recreation while leaning into our local culture, identity, and personality. The good news is there's a team already hard at work. These are just some of our folks. You have a phenomenal team, some of them are here, and they're ready to get after it, and they're going to get after it in some very special ways that I can't even imagine how they will. They'll figure out more questions without answers, and they'll figure out more answers to questions I even have thought of than any of us can imagine. But this is a team that's ready to get to work on this plan and move it forward too. And I can't help myself, I have to be a little cute at the end. But if we think through what a traffic jam maybe in Chattanooga looks like in 2050, that's one. What if in Chattanooga we thought this was a traffic jam? What if we thought this was a traffic jam? And I'm going to tell y'all, this is doable stuff. Bigger isn't better, better is better. And parks is one of those rare levers you have as council to really shape the city. So next week we're going to be back, sorry to say, and we're going to ask you for action. And these are really the three big actions we're going to ask you to consider. Number one is adoption of the plan, and the plan can be found online at ChattanoogaParksandOutdoorsPlan.com, and you have the executive summaries in front of you. Number two, we're going to ask you to direct the administration to begin setting up a creation of that Parks and Outdoors Advisory Commission to be stewards of our public spaces and places and aid you in that role. And then finally, we're going to ask you to direct the administration to explore consideration and specific parcel level examination of the existing city-owned lands that would make sense for an urban ecology preserve system across our city. It's been a pleasure to work on this plan with this team. I can't tell you how excited we are to get after it, and I hope you feel the passion that we feel as well. And I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
All right, I'm glad you said that, Scott. Councilman Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Scott, you want to recognize your team that's here?
I would be delighted to. Akoshua is standing right over here. Blythe is somewhere in here. Jason, our deputy right there. Greta is here. I thought I saw Noel wandering around somewhere. There he is. Those were really the key members over here. I don't think and Brian Smith, the face of the department. How do you leave out the face? Good gosh, you leave out the meteorologist. It's horrible. But they really have been the ones behind it. I can't thank Julia, Ryan, and the whole administration enough for their support. It's been a team effort, y'all, and it's been a pleasure to be a part of.
You do have a great parks team.
We do.
And they do a great job. And I look forward to a little bit more in-depth as far as the plan goes. I would ask for you to do one thing for me, and I'll be honest, and I've gotten some questions from people that this, for whatever reason, seems to make them a little nervous. Becoming the first designated national park city, could you shoot me some information about what all that means?
Yeah.
And what that entails?
Be happy to.
We do have, and I have had residents ask me, does that mean that we won't ever, we're not going to be able to burn wood in our fireplaces anymore? So
Yeah.
It's something that seems to be a little scary to some people.
It is, and we've got a website out there. I encourage everyone to explore Chattanooga National Park City. Go check out the website. And the best way I can frame it for folks is think of it, if you get it, and we're going to get it because, quite frankly, we have already so many great stories happening here. We have great work underway. We're a pretty special place. It's a Michelin star that affirms what's special about your community, which is why London got it and Adelaide got it as well. But I'll get you the summary and check out the website, nationalparkcity.com or .org, Brian. I always mess that up. .org, thank you.
All right. One follow-up question, too. I noticed in the brochure that we got, I don't know, a month or so ago about all the parks that we have in the city. One of the parks that if I felt like was left out was our zoo. Is there a reason that we don't include the zoo as a park in Chattanooga?
You do not, for parks planning, you do not include zoos as a standalone park because they're such a hyper-specialized facility. It's the same reason we don't include the aquarium or any museums.
Well, but it is a city-owned facility, correct?
It is a city-owned, operated by nonprofit facility.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think we own the animals, if I understand the relationship correctly.
Well, as I think about Warner Park and all the amenities there, I would just think that we'd want to highlight or shine as much of it as we could.
Absolutely. We can make sure we've got that included. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Is that it, Councilman Henderson?
Yeah.
All right, Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Scott, one of the things I teach my son, who's 14, is taking care of things that we have. And he asks me sometimes, how long have you had that? And I say, well, with one bicycle in particular hanging on the wall. I've had that bicycle since 1999, and it's in immaculate shape because I care about it. I take care of it. Can I ride it? Sure. Let's get it out. We need to do that with our parks, and you're doing that with our parks. But not only that, adding to teaching us. I love the idea of you bringing us together more as a community to take care of what we have. It's not just your responsibility. Those parks belong to us. And yes, I have one park in East Brainerd, the most dense district of all 9. And we need to take better care of it, and we've made strides on it. And you've made improvements, I know, working with me. And we have a big plan for inclusivity, playground-wise, in the works too. That needs help. This is bold. Your team is fantastic. We just opened up a pickleball complex in East Brainerd, And I've been going by there every day. Sometimes at night, because I want to see what it looks like. And you know what I'm seeing? People playing, people outdoors, people laughing. Some people upset with the way they hit the ball, but that's okay too. That's part of it. But what I'm seeing is a community that's outside that's enjoying a better quality of life because we invested. And I need to give a big shout out for that little space that we have carved out over there. It has made a tremendous difference already, Greta, to a lot of people in that area. To see that space activated, to see the commitment by the city and the mayor and your team. I really, really appreciate it. You know how much time I love to spend outdoors. It's where I'm happy. It's where I let some things go and get on my bike and ride the Riverwalk. You and I talk about this all the time, Greta. And Greta's fantastic. Let me just say something. For her to text me back when sometimes all I have is 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, bless her heart. Bless her heart. I just really appreciate that because that tells me that she cares and her team cares. And I just really want to say thank you to your team. Keep up the great work. Don't forget about us in East Brainerd. But thank you for what you're doing because the energy and the passion that you're bringing forward is an integral part of not only bringing us out of the post-COVID funk that we all have experienced, but helping us to come together and heal in ways that I cannot describe, and that's socially and being together outside. And I just think it's fantastic what you're doing here, and I appreciate your energy and your spirit. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Madam Vice Chair Hill?
We're really lucky to have you leading this conversation. Your presentation brings tears to my eyes, and if I say too much, I'll probably start crying now. Golly, just the fact that we had 7.8 million birds flying over us in May. No wonder the North Shore's got so much noise issue. Damn birds. But I mean, I don't know what that fish looks like. I could tell you a spotted salamander, I think, but that paddlefish, or whatever you said. I think that the pop is something that Chattanooga, all of us in Chattanooga can get really excited about. And your point about connectivity, the fact that you've got developers that are saying, I want to be a part of a conversation of how I connect this neighborhood with this one, is music to my ears. And it's just the same things that we're talking about with the West Side and the Bend, and how do we get that Alton Park connector ready, and how do we get people, more people feeling comfortable using the Riverwalk to commute from St. Elmo. I mean, that, I say regularly, I think that my job on city council is to make sure that 10 years from now, the city's better than it was when I got here. And that we build a Chattanooga for Chattanoogans who live here. And if we do that, it's gonna be a great place for everybody to visit too. And this plan, and with the passion that you bring to it, and the thoughtful insight about like helping us understand the value underneath it, the why we care about going for a walk in the woods. I mean, that picture that you had of the trail versus something else, I don't remember which one it was, but I want the trail, like with the wildflowers through it. Let's figure out how to fund this. Let's get people excited about it. And let's make this map really pretty and sell it as a poster.
All right, is that it, Madam Vice Chair?
Yes, for now.
Okay. Councilman Hester?
To borrow a word often used by former City Councilman Anthony Byrd, amazing. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your energy, your passion, and your team, your amazing team. And thank you, Greta, for the idea, and Summit for the lights. Just hats off to all you guys. I'm looking forward to what you guys gonna do in the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Hester and Councilwoman Byrd.
Good job. Yeah, great job. Well, you already know that. Let me ask you some practical questions. When we adopt this plan, which I think you heard everybody's in favor of what you're doing, is part of the plan to hook you with permitting people? So that if a developer wants to do something, we would hope that it would be voluntary. But if a developer wants to do something, there must be this sort of space included. Is that part? So in other words, it needs to permeate not just your department,
Yeah.
but every department. That's a consideration. That's the only way I think you're going to get to the density. Does that make sense?
That's a perfect question. This plan will not do it on its own, but you as council have not had a vehicle like this plan to talk to Dan and the comprehensive plan process and then make that ask. So this will be the first step. And I'll say this, plan without work is a 4-letter word. We can write all the plans we want, but you just said, hit the nail on the head. How do you turn it into the work on the ground?
Right.
And all of the tools and all of the talent, time, talent, and treasures are going to be needed to do that, including the relationship you just described.
So I'm wondering if when we approve something, that shouldn't be one of the additional questions.
Yeah.
What are you doing about green space? How is it, all the things you talked about in our various districts should be important. And I'm wondering, will it start when we start having the permitting process? It's just something I'm kind of tossing out there to people in other departments that might be sitting here listening maybe. Okay, the other thing is, you want it in place by 2050. Is the only thing holding you back to do it sooner money?
Resources are one, and then we've got to build up the capacity. I think y'all probably read about it, and we've got to figure out how to build faster, cheaper, stronger, and better as government. And that's on us to figure out how to get things done on time and not tie ourselves up into this morass of slowness. That's administrative. I believe those solutions are possible. I think our friends up the road in Nashville are about to build a $1 billion stadium in 2 years. Certainly, we can build a neighborhood park faster than 7 years. So that's on us.
Yeah.
And then the second one will be the resources to make it happen.
So it's the speed of molasses, of bureaucracy and getting things done?
That's an insult to molasses, and I'll speak to their industry about that, but yes.
Okay, so so if all of that were, so it's our internal way of doing things.
Yes, ma'am.
I get that. And when you're talking about resources, you're talking about people and money.
Mm-hmm.
So does it mean, you mentioned both of them, does it mean staff? That's one of the resources, and the other is cash, right? That's another resource.
And the third one.
That's what I want to know.
Creative partnerships and collaborations, leveraging everything you've got and all the resources at your table.
Public, private.
Public, private, nonprofit, and even for-profit sometimes. As we explore our operations, as they create economic input for the city, crazy idea, they should pay for our city to have great things too. I think Councilmember Hill said it. If we build a great city, people will come on their own, and we're going to ask those folks who come to pay and support the city. Some of that narrative is floating in the county right now, I know, but we can be very thoughtful and methodical about that as well.
I'm wondering, as you come up with various projects, if we all know about it, can we help you sell those projects?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So it needs not to be behind closed doors so much, getting bureaucrated to death, but some of us, okay?
And then in the capital budget, it shouldn't be a surprise to y'all anymore. There's a list. And it's like when I was growing up, my dad always threatened, he did it once. If I didn't eat my vegetables, they showed up at breakfast the next day. If a project's not funded, it's going to show up the next year. It didn't just magically go away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Burrs and Councilwoman Knoll.
Hey,
Hey.
so I just want to say thank you as well, and it feels really good to be at the top of the list for once, District 8, because you all started one in District 8. So, thank you for that.
All right, is that it, Councilwoman Knoll?
That's it, madam.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Scott, I don't see any other lights, so thank you so much for your presentation. All right, with that, council, we don't have any other committees or reports, so we will adjourn till 6. Oh, good. What was that, we came in with all the little boxes and stuff? This somebody brought some lasagna, this one brought some one whole meal.
Right, that's true.